Hi there, this is Amber Parrott from Morgan James Publishing, and today I have the privilege of connecting with author Christopher Russell, the author of Divinity's Twilight, Rebirth. Christopher, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on, Amber.
Awesome. So I want to dive in and ask you a couple of questions about your new book. What inspired you to write the novel?
Well, Divinity's Twilight is essentially my love letter to the fantasy and science fiction genres. That I had read a bunch of different books from Lord of the Rings to Star Wars, and then, of course, there's my Christian background, there is history, there are all the different classes that I took in high school, from physics to English, chemistry to American politics, a bunch of different things. And this is a culmination of a whole lot of different experiences. And I wanted to tell a tale that would be at once entertaining and invigorating to the reader, and transport them to an alternate world that they could explore and enjoy, but at the same time deal with everyday issues of morals and virtue, justice, all these different things that we learn from other sources, but we don't exactly see living, breathing characters or people performing them, that it's always delivered in sort of a mundane way where we can't really connect with it. It's a lot easier to do that with storytelling, where you draw someone into a world and they're following another person that they relate to.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you pulled from a lot of different experiences, and I think great works of fiction do that. They pull from the real world and connect this sort of fantastical with the very real. So that's awesome.
If I had to be specific, I'd say that the works of Adrian Tchaikovsky, specifically a series called Shadows of the Apt, inspired me to write Divinity's Twilight. His focus was a lot more on the engineering or technical aspects and how they would influence a fantasy world rather than the magical or the arcane. And this really jived with me because my background is in mechanical and aerospace engineering. So I set out to write a similar world, an analogous world, where the aspects of magic and technology interrelate. And that's the meeting point in Divinity's Twilight.
Very cool. So you mentioned that you love storytelling. What is your favorite aspect of storytelling?
Probably the world building, that you primarily have three different elements that you're dealing with in fiction. You have your plot, you have your characters, and then if you're dealing with fantasy, science fiction, or even normal suspense thrillers or horror, you have world building. These are the elements that build up your story, that you invite the reader in and you ask them to suspend their disbelief. They have to believe that whatever place you've taken them to could exist. That's where a lot of the disconnect is with people coming into fantasy or science fiction movies or into fantasy and science fiction books, that they don't believe that these fantastical supernatural elements could exist.
Sure.
And so what you do with world building is you modify specific things. You might have 80% real world elements and 20% new things that you introduce. For example, one of the big things in the world of Lozaria in Divinity's Twilight is airships. That this technology that has gone in a different direction than in our real world of jet planes and helicopters and other aerospace technologies, these great battleships or trading vessels or freighters soar through the sky on grav pads, that they are able to float at thousands of meters in the air, and that is the primary means of war and trade, of projecting power for a nation. And I just thought that this was incredible, and I explain it through my engineering background. I don't go into too much detail, too technical, because you lose the readers, but I think that that's fascinating. And then if you have the magical resource that powers these airships, well, what else could it do? How do the people get electricity? How do they farm? How have their societies developed in a different way than our own because of the way that their technology has gone? That you twist one detail, you change one thing, and there is a domino effect that spirals off from there that is going to affect every facet of a person's life. And then what if instead of one race of human beings, you had 7 races that are different in ways other than just basic changes? That what if a creature had 4 arms? What if there were blue beings and red beings? What if there was a winged race? What if there was insectoids or reptilians that could alter their bone structure? And so there are 7 races in the world of Lozaria that are all very different from each other, yet they have to learn to cooperate and work alongside each other. That they're, even within the Terrans, you have the normal spread of, like we see here on Earth, of different cultures, of different skin colors. But at the same time, you have people with different physiology, completely different bone structure, internal organs, chemistry, etc. So this is all world building. How do you take these elements and expand them out from there to create a fantastical, unique, interesting world that we can still discuss real issues in?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm not the full way through your book yet, but I will say, so far you do a great job of creating a world that is similar enough to the real world, but different enough that it really makes you think and imagine this really interesting landscape and setting. So well done.
Which is the key. You ground the reader in something familiar, that they understand political structures, they understand conflict, they understand all these social issues. But then you introduce the magical elements. It's a what if, that you blend that. It's not so different than imagining that in our own world, what we're able to do with technology, because there's a great quote from Arthur C. Clarke that I like to use. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Very cool.
Food for thought.
Right. So you talked at the beginning of the conversation about how you pull in elements from your life and from the real world to really create this atmosphere. What kind of real world themes are you exploring in Divinity's Twilight?
There's a lot of different ones. There is, with the main characters especially, tackling depression and mental illness, the PTSD, dealing with the fallout from war and conflict, and just seeing all these horrors and tragedies. There are themes of found family, that the people that you connect with or jive with might not be the people with whom you share a blood relation. There are themes of basically the progress of technology and innovation wiping out traditions and cultures of the past. That how do you take what has been and allow it to compromise with what is going to be? That do you allow who you are as a person, as a culture, your religion, your faith, your myths, to decay in the face of overwhelming pressure from a neighbor, from another country, or another force? It can be domestic or external. There's a whole lot of different themes, morals, virtues. One of the chief ones is examining Machiavellianism, which is, do the ends justify the means? Is fear more important than love? What is the best system of governance? And that's one of the things that's explored from book to book, because different kingdoms and nations are examined with different government systems. And it's not necessarily saying one is right and one is wrong, but Divinity's Twilight is detailing the positives and negatives to each, and its ramifications on real people from the top to the bottom. That many of the characters during the conflicts and issues that arrive in Divinity's Twilight, because the central conflict is a war between 3 nations that have very differing ideologies, and the fallout 700 years later, that they've been fighting for 7 centuries. And the cadet protagonists have to view this in the towns and villages and places that they go. The ordinary people, some want to be occupied. It provides an opportunity for them. They can be contractors. Their skills will be more worthwhile. Sure. Then there are people that are ingrained in the government. They're going to lose their jobs. Or people that have been making weapons, or blacksmiths, or traders, people that could be viewed as subversives because of the value of their craft to a rebellion, a revolt. So there's a lot of stuff going on under the surface.
Yeah, and a lot of timeless themes that are relevant not just now, but for generations. So before we wrap up, Chris, I do want to ask, where can viewers at home connect with you?
So first off, here's the book, Divinity's Twilight Rebirth. Amber has a lovely spine facing out on her bookshelf behind her. I saw that. So there's the spine if you happen to find it at bookstores, and then there's the teaser on the back. You're going to be able to find the book itself in bookstores everywhere: Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Second and Charles, Waterstone, Indigo, depending on what country you're in. But go into your local bookstore, see if they have it, ask them if they don't. You'll be able to get it through online retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. There's a bunch of different ebooks. But in addition, you can connect with me specifically on my website, ChristopherRussellAuthor.com. It is spelled exactly like my name. That is Russell with 2 S's and 2 L's. And from there, you are going to be able to get to all my social media. But the cool thing about the website is that I have a lot of content up there. You are going to be able to see my writing style and all the different themes and setting that I talked about with Amber in my free read section, where there is an excerpt from the prologue to Divinity's Twilight Rebirth. There are short stories set in the world of Lozaria from Divinity's Twilight. And then there are also excerpts of upcoming works, including an Asian fantasy standalone novel that I'm writing, and a short story for a villain anthology that I'm writing with 24 other authors for this December. So those are lots of opportunities to check out my writing. But my social media accounts, Christopher_Russell_author, that is my Instagram. My Twitter is Chris_DT_author. And then my Facebook is Divinity's Twilight Fantasy Novels. And if you want to give all those pages a like and a follow, I'm very active on there every day, every couple days. There is going to be new information about everything I'm doing, and you can come in and follow my writing process and all my upcoming projects and what I'm planning.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christopher. And thank you, viewers at home, for tuning in. You can get Divinity's Twilight Rebirth, like he said, anywhere books are sold. Congratulations on the release of your book.
Thank you so much, Amber. And thank you guys for all the work that you've done. I couldn't get to this point without you guys.
Yeah, we are so happy to help.